Today's date is July 11th, 2012, and my name is Jonathan Kirsch with City of Lakewood KLTV Channel 8. I'm here with Ray Wells, recording his personal history for Lakewood and the Jefferson County Public Library Oral History Project. So Mr. Wells, let's start off. What is your full name?
Ray Stewart Wells.
Okay, and when and where were you born?
I was born in Miltonvale, Kansas, 1934, March the 1st.
And what were your parents' names?
Stewart and Gladys.
Okay, and where were they from?
Hey, we're from Kansas.
Okay, cool. How long have you lived in Lakewood?
Well, I don't live in Lakewood.
Okay.
I live in Castle Rock.
Oh, gotcha.
But I lived in Lakewood when I was manager here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the term of the manager.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. And what's your wife's name?
Lori.
Lori. Okay. Where was she born?
She was born on the Mohawk Reservation, upstate New York.
Okay. In what year?
Oh, I thought you'd ask that. Well, she's 54, so she's backing off of that, I guess.
So, 68?
68.
68?
Yeah,
40,
she's,
58.
Yeah.
58. Okay. 1958. And do you know the names of her mother and father?
Yes, Alan and Yvonne.
Okay. Alan and Yvonne. And do you know where they came from? Where they were born?
Yes, they were all Native Americans
Okay.
from upstate New York, the Mohawks.
Okay. Great. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I've got one sister, Sandra.
Okay. And how old is she?
Oh, she's 6 or 8 years younger than me. She lives in Aurora.
Okay. Do you have children?
Yes. I have a Grant, born in 1988, Caitlin in 1991, Jesse in 1982, Jenny in 1984, Kathy in 1961, and Kelly in 1953.
Great. Great. Where did you go to high school?
Miltonvale, Kansas.
Okay. And how long was the school year when you went to school there?
Oh, it was a short 9 months. It was ag country,
Okay.
farm and ranch country, and they kind of went by when you had to work.
Right. Where did you live on a farm?
Oh, you know, my folks were. My dad was an automobile and farm machinery, and we had ranches and so on and so forth. Anything to make a living in those days.
Sure. Sure. And did you go to college?
Oh yes.
Where'd you go?
Well, University of Maryland when I was overseas in the Air Force, and then a little college, Meltonville Wesleyan, for 6 weeks while I was getting caught up, and then Wichita State and University of Kansas, and CU
Okay.
over the years.
And what degree did you?
I wound up with everything but the dissertation for a doctorate in public administration.
Okay.
And the guys left this program the year I completed my everything except the dissertation, and I was without a study, or I'd have the PhD from CU.
Okay.
I have a master's from University of Kansas, the School of City Management.
Great. What year did you get your master's?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's see, I got out of service in 50, I was in the Korean War, and in the 50s, around 62, I think, a master's out of the University of Kansas.
Okay. And what was your profession, occupation?
I was a city manager in several places those years. I gave you the rundown on that. You can use that where I was. And I served several cities in the United States.
Okay. And are you retired?
No.
Nope.
No, I'll die. I don't retire.
Gotcha.
I don't have the money, nor the patience, nor the desire to retire.
Okay. And and let's see. And you presently own your own business right now?
Yes, I have for many years.
As a consultant?
Oh, the business that after I finished with the administration and the cities that you'll see there, Wichita, Lawrence, El Reno, Lawrence, Kansas, Muskegon County, Iowa City, then Lakewood. And then I went to a national Western capital company here that was in the development. I migrated into land and community development work. And as a part of that, I started a firm that we managed about 200 special districts in Colorado. Most of them were the full-blown operational special districts. And I sold that business when I developed a little case. I was given 6 months to live, and by the folks up in the main hospitals, and so I sold that business. But fortunately, I didn't finish dying, and so I'm back, and I've been involved in community development and various and sundry real estate developments and communities, and that's what we're doing today. We've a lot of business in New Mexico and some places like that. We're doing with some hopefully some sea water recovery and with nuclear energy out of Sonora and Mexico, and some projects like that get a lot of my interest today.
Okay.
Western United States is out of water. The only place we're going to get it's out of the ocean. We got to have desalination to do it. The only thing that'll power it will be nuclear power, and so you got to get all the pansies off. We operated a ship for 50 years. Nobody even gets a blister, but they're worried as hell that there might be something out of nuclear. The Japanese, their little deal with first of all, they had a storm. Secondly, the reason they had a problem with the nuclear is they didn't know how to start a diesel engine to put water in the tanks. It had nothing to do with the nuclear business at all. So we get, well, my point is that people, if nothing else, I've worked for and in due of and making people get, helping people get a better life and a better place to live. That's not a big ovation, but that's what's driven it. That's why I'm still in the business of putting together large, particularly urban development projects.
So with all these positions that you've held and all these jobs, what's the most interesting job that you've ever had?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't think about it in that manner. They all provided an opportunity to do something. My mother, I would have to bring it because it did affect it, and I didn't realize how much. We lived in a small town business and ranch, and the mayor installed a dump in those days, a town dump, south of my folks. They lived out on the edge of the city. And then they'd light it on fire, and they'd both smolder. And my mother complained to the mayor. Well, it was right at the start of the Second World War, and Dad was in the salvage business, the salvage iron. We had cars and trucks, but he had a little salvage yard. The mayor allowed us how that somebody that ran a salvage yard shouldn't worry about a little smoke off of a town dump. My mother at that point seriously said, you ever grow up and get a chance, I don't want you treating people like that, the city, local government. And that stuck with me. It's kind of a punky thing, but it really did. And he epitomized a lot of people that you see in local government today, and government generally. They don't give a damn about the people. They think they own the business once they're there, which is something that I worked against. Worked to solve as
So-
much as possible.
So that was kind of your push into, I guess, civic service.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a very rewarding. I look back in some of the relationships I have with some black kids that I helped in municipal work. Today will call me from someplace, and like one of them's run the Dallas airport, managed the Dallas airport. The kid I helped get through the University of Kansas. Those kinds of things live with you. That's what it's about, really. It's not you. It's what can you do, and how do you feel good at it. That's it. Any job, any vocation is. There should be a satisfaction level there someplace, and where do you seek it? And I think that local government certainly provides plenty of opportunities, and especially it gets more complicated and more involved as we go along, and it's taking a lot of people with a lot more skills and a lot of different kinds of skills, professional skills, than we used to have. And I think it's still a very viable place to be.
Great. Okay. You said that you served overseas. What branch of the military?
I was in the Air Force during the Korean War.
Okay. And
I was in Germany and all over the. Well, we were in an air missions outfit, and so it was kind of around Europe.
going back a little earlier, when you were young, what do you remember about World War II? How did it affect your community?
Oh, they drafted my dad. He served in the Navy, and so we had to, while he was the last year or two of the war, he was in the Navy, and all of my uncles and so forth were there, and there was just old men and kids like me that were in World War II, and so it was some kind of difficult times to get things done and keep the business going, keep the ranches going, and that type of thing, and without the people around, but no question, the show of patriotism and interest. Sometimes I don't quite agree with some of the things that go on today in that arena, but then folks I deal with still say pledges to allegiance, and without screaming about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with being in love with your country.
And you said you served in the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
Were you overseas there the whole time?
No. Just I was in Europe. I was mostly in Texas for 2.5 years or so. I was in Europe about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in a special air missions outfit.
So did you have a chance to see how that conflict and the Vietnamese conflict affected your community?
Protected what? I'm sorry.
How the Korean conflict and the Vietnamese conflict affected your community?
Oh, well, I think that unfortunately, the big war affected everybody, and the country was fell at risk, and Japanese shelled the West Coast, etc. Bombed Pearl Harbor. I think there was less I don't want to say interest. Most certainly people that had people serving in that time, but there was less drama. There was less threat of here in the United States. I think that showed up in how they treated the veterans when they returned. Maybe not quite as much support. People didn't quite understand the Oriental relationships that were going on, what was causing the thing, and they saw it more as somebody not getting something right more than they saw as a threat to the country, I think.
Okay. Do you remember seeing a man walking on the moon
Oh, yes.
on TV?
Yeah. I believe his name was Shepard, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
How-
That was all staged, you know. It was in a theater here in the United States. Right?
Well, how did those images on the TV, wherever they came from, how did they affect your family, your community? Was everyone just amazed at the time because no one had ever seen anything like that before?
Oh, I think everybody in my family were impressed with the advance in science and technology that it took to cause those things to happen. I also, as a part of this, I flew airplanes, and still, the cancer thing stopped it, but I've owned 25 or 30 different airplanes, and so I'm a person that is a little more acquainted necessarily to some of that. And so I think some of the films now that come back out of some of these cameras, I saw one not long ago. They're publishing those films off of the Hubble telescope and showing people the difference in the size of the sun compared to the moon, and I think that type of information. It's hard to get that out of a book, to get that dramatic and drama. And I think the same thing with the Walk on the Moon. I think there were very few people thought that was a staged, that was kind of later with some hard heads.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the space program was most certainly brought a lot of improvements to life.
What would you say the greatest achievement mankind has experienced in your lifetime? So far.
It's a lot easier to think of all the screw-ups that we've had, right? Well, most certainly conquering space and the air industry and those technical things that we've resolved have made life better, living better, life in the whole better for us. Those to pick any one of them as they kind of followed each other. And, I think we've done a great job with in some of those areas, and perhaps one of our weakest areas is communicating those achievements, and that's to the general public and getting it to all the way out, not just to the elite and the educated necessarily, is to get it all the way through. That's what we found in Lawrence when we were having race riots. We thought we had a community that was most certainly open, and I built the first public pool that a black person could swim in Lawrence, Kansas. When I was there as city manager, got in a hell of a lot of trouble for doing that. And that bothered me because I didn't realize the real impact of the racial. It didn't show through. We'll say it didn't. It wasn't big signs on the bus. You can't ride here, but the fact that so many people were wealthy and had servants and et cetera. And then the north part of the city, it was kind of, as you know, if you were there, I had a black assistant that I was helping get through KU program. One of the nights they blocked the students blocked the interstate highway system with human bodies, which was And then they had a riot in town, and we had the police station. You remember Lawrence, Massachusetts, and on the First Street West, the main police station, we had an auditorium. And I was standing backstage waiting to go out. On the stage, we had about 300 black and discontented people. And I turned to him and I said, gee, Vern, we're in trouble. And he looked at me, grinned, and said, what do you mean, we, white man? Yeah, it's moments like that that really bring people out, and that's why I stayed with the business side. Where else could you get that kind of experience? And
sure. When you were young, did your family belong to any community groups or churches or anything like that?
Oh, we've always belonged to the church. Yeah, it's been yeah, the little town of Miltonville out in western Kansas there was a little Miltonville Wesleyan College in a little town there, and religion has been a part of my life right from the go. Yeah, if the guy upstairs doesn't go along with you, you're not going to go very far. That's my opinion.
When did you meet your wife?
Oh gosh, met her in Colorado, and oh gosh, what is it now? It's 30 years ago. Been married 30 years, so that's back off from there. That'd be it.
72?
Yeah, probably about. She was the guy in law school in
82.
82. That'd be about right.
Thanks.
And then she was in law school in University of New Mexico, and she went to Wells College in upstate New York. And then I bumped into her at a party at a friend's house in Breckenridge, and she was up here visiting some people she knew from Albuquerque, and she was not real flush with money, and so she had taken a deal to deliver rental cars. You know, the rental cars companies they want to move cars, and so you can check with them and sometimes take a car to another community where you want to go for the driving of it. And she had done that, and her car broke down, and so we became a little closer than we would have otherwise, probably. Yeah, yeah. She's a heck of a person.
How long did it take for you to know that she was the one?
Oh, not very long. Not very long. She's very erudite, and we get into an argument over the Indian. I had a lot of Indians in Oklahoma and Indian reservation. I had quite a bit of experience at that, in Wyoming, Oklahoma. And so first thing is we got into quite a little argument over Indians and how her envision of the Bureau of Indian Affairs wasn't the same as mine. No, well, we had some hell of issue arguments. In fact, and she won, of course. Well, the Mohawks that's an very old group out of. They were among the first, you know, and dealt with the French and actually the reservations on the river there, and so that's she's still strong, still helping Indian kids today. So.
What do you remember about your wedding?
Oh, yeah, she had our folks here from upstate New York, and it was I had condominium in western side of Lawrence, and or in Lawrence, Lakewood. Yeah, so a lot of her folks came to live. Oh yes, her grandmother. The one thing that stands out, her grandmother said that if I was in the mood, I said something about I knew a place that had Indian blankets, and she said she would prefer horses. And she said a Cadillac with about 200 horses under the hood would be a nice wedding. Oh yeah, great people.
Good. When you were born in the town that you lived in, when you were born, was it in a hospital or was it at your house?
Oh no, it was at the house. Yeah. It was a local doc. There was no hospitals around. Little town I grew up in, and they were delivered at home.
So did your mom use a lot of home recipes and home cures rather than going to the doc, or would the doc just come out?
Oh, yeah. The first time that I remember anything having to do with a doctor of any consequence was when the advent of penicillin. I was prone to pneumonia as a youngster, and so penicillin was a magic godsend. But it came in those days with a needle about the size of your. I mean, it didn't slip it into you. They poked it, and you bled for quite a while because it was so thick, and the original penicillin stuff. But it knocked down the pneumonia.
Did your folks have a telephone at the house?
Oh yeah, longs and shorts. Had a telephone operator.
Party line?
Irma was a telephone operator.
Was it a party line?
Oh yeah, sure. Nobody had. Only the banker had a secure line in town. Yeah.
Okay. And they had electricity?
Oh
at
sure.
The house?
Yeah,
Okay.
they had their own power plant that stood. Kansas Power and Electric were the overall, but they had a local big diesel engine business. Little town of 1,000 people or so, and so they had a standby thing for power. Yeah.
What kind of games did you play as a child?
Oh, baseball, softball, football. Yeah, and you didn't need to worry about games when I was a kid. It was plenty of work. 7 days a week, because we all lived on ranches and farms, and so it was really about the only thing that broke up was Sunday morning church. The rest of the time you worked. It was not to milk cows, you milk 7 days a week, and that fish or the chickens and the everything had to be fed. So it was, you just got busier when the crop time of the year came and that type of thing. That's why the school year was short as it was too, because the kids, the manpower was, especially during the Second World War and times when there was those kinds of things. It took everybody working to survive.
So since you were working a lot as a youngster, did you then did you play a lot of games with your kids when they were young?
No, you worked, You were driving way before, by the time you were 10, you were driving tractors and cart trucks, 10, 12.
And then when you had children, did you play
my
games with them?
kids?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we managed to have 2 different families of children, and so the older ones, but we took them to events and saw that they tried to get into the school athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a couple of them got pretty good at swimming and the various ball games. They all participated. Yeah.
Did art and music have an effect on your life when you were growing up?
Oh, yeah, music. I played trumpet in the high school band, the grade school, high school band, and yeah, music was art was art was nature, you know, more than somebody painting something. It was more the nature in living in it, noticing what the season changes did and that type of thing. Yeah.
And that's the kind of experience you get living on a ranch.
Oh yeah.
On a farm.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you go to fix a fence in the morning with an old horse that didn't want to leave the barn to start with, and you got about as far from the ranch house as you could get, and fixing fence, and the horse got away and took off and went back to the barn. You had to walk to the house, so you had plenty of time to look at the grass and the ground. Yeah, it didn't have to happen many times that you tied the horse a little tighter.
So you said you're an avid pilot. Do you have any other special interests or hobbies?
Oh, no. I love photography and some things that we do like that, but nothing. I've always had, between running business and the job I was in, I have found plenty to keep me busy with that type of thing, and then with the church Sundays, and I didn't have to go to work to find something to do.
Besides your time overseas with the Korean War, have you done a lot of traveling?
No. From time to time, I was with the tech center, the Denver Tech Center there in the southeast part of Denver. When we were owned by the English, we traveled quite a bit back and forth to England and into France, and because our owners were there. We had some of that travel, but and then here in the States, working clients, various places in the States, that kind of travel. But when the kids were small, we went to some islands a couple of times, but that's not been a big thing. We've found other things to do that were far more interesting to us, and that type of thing.
So let's talk about your Lakewood years. How did you become involved with the city of Lakewood?
A friend of mine, Walt Kane, was a classmate of mine at the University of Kansas, and Walt was manager of Lakewood, and I think he was. Yeah, I believe I'm right. I believe I wound up as the second one. He was the first one. I think that's right. And we were, as I said, classmates, and I knew that, and he was going on to St. Louis or where the heck was it? He was, and I had finished out some stuff in. We built the largest land treatment system for sewage in the United States in Muskegon, Michigan. And we had just finished that project up, and I was looking, that had been a tough one. We had to deal with, we went all the way to the Flight House, Erickman, and that was the days of Nixon, and we had to get approval. People didn't think we could treat sewage with land. They didn't see the sands in Michigan. They didn't understand that we turned out drinking water out of that system. They had a group of cities and townships that had sewers, so it was a large project. And we just finished that when, I was asked if I had any interest in, yeah, let's see. I think that's right. Did I miss one? Was I in Iowa City first?
It says Michigan 69 to 72, and then Iowa City 72 to 74.
I'd come to Iowa City, and I was in Iowa City when Walt quit. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Iowa City was sort of a Ed Steen, the head of the KU's program, used to kind of keep track of all of us, and so if somebody was wanting to change or something, why a lot of times we'd hear about it early, and yeah, it was that was right, and I hadn't been out here, worked for U.S. Coast Geodetic Survey for a short period, years before that in Colorado, and so Colorado was kind of interesting, and
so
we did it.
What would you say? What role would you say you played in the development of Lakewood as a city manager?
Oh, Walt had the job of assembling. Dividing up and assembling and starting from scratch. And he'd done quite a job, and he had a bunch of good people. He had handpicked the police chief and public works, and those departments were people that were, really nationally, most of them nationally recognized. And it was, I got a call from one of our classmates was a headhunter in those days for city managers. Paul Reaume out of Chicago. He'd been a city manager. He was a classmate, and he'd been a city manager, and he started a company to find managers for communities. So I got a call, said Newtown. Walt said, yeah, he said they got it started. And Jim Ritchie was, of course, the mayor, and Jim was a KU guy too, and so it was kind of a natural. I had just finished up that. I finished the project in Michigan and in Iowa City. I went there. There was a kind of a inner staff problem, and we got that all squared away. So I'd been there long enough to get back in kind of the university atmosphere, and so it just seemed like a normal thing. And we came out here, and people were really still excited, and they had a lot of, like I think we talked the last time I came in with her. About the public safety, some of the ideas that had come up in more modernistic approaches to public services. It was very interesting. They had an excellent council, all except New. He was. I want him to know. No, Carl's great. They were a great group of guys and women too. And everybody still had the zeal to show that they were the largest city to ever incorporate the United States, and they had a lot yet to put together. So it was a very challenging, but challenging not from anti but challenging to get the job done. There was a lot of people to just suddenly say you're a city, and what's that, you know? And but the cooperation level was great, and the people working on it were really just outstanding citizens. They were very helpful, and yeah, we enjoyed the time, and it was a good transition into I went from here into directly into the community development business, and so.
You had mentioned Carl New and Jim Ritchie. Who were some of your other peers?
Oh gosh, Pearl Alperstein. Pearl recently passed away. Her husband was an attorney and been here a long time. Betty Miller. Betty, in fact, she started I went to her. She worked for the higher education superintendent of higher education in Colorado. That's not quite the title, but she was secretary, and she was working with us, got the PhD program into the University of Colorado in public administration. And they were all Mal Flowers was a previous one. A lot of them remain friends yet today. Bill Wilson and people I see. It was a genuine interest in community. There were really no old established, my family's been running this thing for 100 years, and that you run into in some older cities where they've started a line of succession in the political system, and that was just not here. These were all folks that were, by and large, new to the business and wanting to learn, wanting to know how do you make things better, and that's led to the public safety business and a lot of the other services that were brought out in Lakewood over those years. Great people. I still work with some of them yet today. Ray Bullock is still out in the tech center where I brought to him when he left the city. He came out there, and in engineering and that type of thing. So yeah, it was I think a very successful, and still remains a successful experiment we're starting to get into arguments today with what the president in the present situation about what is government, what is democracy, what we seem to be churning right now, especially at the national level, trying to redefine some things that I think the people in Lakewood did rather quickly, and when you put 100,000 of them together in one time, and I think it was very well done. Yeah, there was some glitches here and there. We had a Caterpillar operator one day took a lady's rose garden out behind her house, and she was complaining, and he said, well, he was just using condemnation of land to get a place to build drainage. We had to straighten him out a little bit, but no, I think by and large everybody entered it with a good spirit, and that was the main thing. There were always some, but that weren't real pleased. But by and large, I think it was. Those people are still meeting. Some of them on New Year's parties and stuff yet today out here. The ones that were in the original startup time.
What would you say was some of your major contributions to Lakewood? in Lakewood's development as city manager?
Oh, I don't know if they could isolate any. Things were started and people were going. All we did was try to keep up and making sure that we kept that level of people and that skill level in there, and where we got some services that we could see that needed changing. I don't think the main thing was to the city council and the governing body was to make sure that they got the information and got the right story on things and didn't get told some cock and bull story about something. And I think that was it was a very pleasant last job, so to speak, particularly in the completely public sector.
Were there any memorable events that took place while you were working for the city?
Oh, every day's the city's management's every day's a memorable event if you survive it. No, I think people were tremendously cooperative. You didn't have scalping parties out. Everybody was pleased that they had started a city, and the county even, the county commissioners and the people that we worked back and forth with in Jefferson County. And was surprising how you take the service out one day and overnight the county no longer was doing it. You were trying to do it with city startup equipment, startup people. I think it went very smoothly, and the backing that the council people gave was just super. There was none of the old back stuff started, and I'm going to get even because he did something to my father and ought to, and the kind of things that you ran into in the older cities where they had maybe a lineage of conflict or change, or somebody had done something years ago. This was fresh. The only thing you had to compare it to is what did the county do before, and so you didn't have gosh, you didn't do as good as the last guy did, that kind of thing.
What was the best thing about working for the city?
Oh, it was still you have to kind of set the stage. It was still a new, quote, new city. There just weren't, how many Lakewoods are there? So you had a brand new toy, a brand new. You not only had the people you were dealing with, that, some of them came from cities and they understood, but like some areas that we had here in town, the fights hadn't really gotten into that level. Where well, for instance, the racial situation on schools. We have communities here that were the sole reason for forming the community was so that you didn't have to send your children to school with the mixed groups in Denver. Those kinds of community, right, wrong, or indifferent, but the feelings. So Lakewood was devoid of that. A lot of that. Not the old time, gee, that's not what they did. So it was in that a very refreshing, very every time I know Ray Bullock and some of the guys that I still know that, you know, every time we'd have a new program, well, it was kind of like you'd invented something, you know, brand new, because they hadn't had that before. And I think the departments, especially the police, the public works, public safety thing, we had Brooks, one of the top cops in the country, and as was Bullock, one of the top public works. Certainly McDonald in parks and recreation. We had just top people, but you know, and it was all new and fresh. He didn't have to talk about, well, you know, Charlie 45 years ago did this, and by golly, I want it done that way today. It wasn't. You didn't have that constant pressure. It was so anytime you came up with something, you were innovating, in effect, for the folks here. It wasn't that they were blind to what the rest of the way of the country, but in their town, this was their city. And I think that was the main thing. To me, bottom line is it was one hell of a successful experiment. The people that did it, I think, should be commended. The people that stood to the line and they had the foresight to get the elections and so forth. That it's still there. What's this? How many of these do you see in cities right where we are? Yeah, and if you seriously sat down at a coffee shop or something out here, I still have friends out here. You still got some of that same feeling today. It's not like Denver, or, you know, while they're doing that because that's the way they've always done it. Gee, I wouldn't want to try to change that. Here, change was the name of the game. Did it change for the better, hopefully?
So what was the worst thing about working for the city?
Oh, well, the reverse of that, I guess. The predictability was not easy to get, because when you brought on new programs, you never knew quite sure. Even though the acceptance by and large was great, there were programs. For instance, I know there was a heck of a pushback on the uniforms of the public safety, the blazers. What do you mean? You got these business guys out, these cars. So it was. Now it didn't turn into anything, but there was that always that opportunity. I know there were some developers here that were used to doing things in other communities. That we went through some very interesting times with soil problems and people building stuff that didn't last. I remember one time, very distinctly, a person came in and said, just having raising hell and putting a chump under it, you know, and bought a new house and got up the second day and he didn't have any water. Said, where's my water service? You know, I bought a new house. And, well, come to find out, the developer had run a hose from the bib on the house across the lot over this new house and hooked it together, so he was running his water from the other house, waiting on a water meter on the one out front. Totally illegal. I mean, he had no way, certainly no way. So, well, it'd be quite a surprise. You know, you wake up the next morning, you turn on your shower, and there isn't a shower because the guy unhooked the hose from his house. I mean, not quite urban rules, right? There were some of those kinds of things, but that's anywhere. That's We didn't have a police that killed somebody out of order, or a drunken brawl, or some of the kinds of things that can occur later. That we were above those kinds of things, or not involved in them.
What do you like about life now? What's the best thing about life right now?
Oh, well, there's many things. There's great grandkids and grandkids. I came back from Iowa, where I saw 2 great grandkids that I hadn't seen because my girls and Iowa and her boys haven't gotten back. Being without the airplane, I haven't been as mobile the last 4, 5, 6 years. I guess maybe longer than that now, because, well, we've yeah, I think the thing that makes you feel a little good, if you really seriously look at the improvements in urban living over the last 25 or 30 years, there's been some outstanding, some startling, some very good progress made in our water, and our sewer, and our streets, and those things, kinds of services. And the attention that's being paid to safety, and now balancing our the financing is we're in a period right now where that's becoming a kind of it flows down, settles down to the individual cities and the individual units of government. We're still not all the way there, but we're better than most. If you look around the world and look at how various people are performing, we're still above, but we could be better. We've hit some times with where we let the housing, for instance, some of the rules and regulations get away with us. There's been new materials we have not used because we haven't code accepted some things that would make life better and living conditions better in housing. But we're getting there. It's in a democracy, majority still got to approve. So, we'd all got, like minority, we'd like to do little things here and there, but the way they run this place, everybody's, you got to have at least a majority before you get it done, and that's good at the end of the day.
And what do you like best about Lakewood?
Oh, I don't spend a lot of time here anymore, but Lakewood has grown, and as I get through here, kept up with the times, the streets, and the center here. I started in the old school building. It was down there on Colfax. That was City Hall. The mayor's office, the girl that ran young lady that ran the switchboard worked in the mayor's office for all the city offices. That's a lot of this complex out here. I'm still trying to get acquainted with it to know where I am. And the people have done that. People approved it, built it. I think they've made a tremendous number of adjustments in the street systems and the housing and the Gary McDonald did a tremendous job with golf and recreational activities before he passed away. They've had good people in those leadership positions, and the marks are here. I think Lakewood Lakewood certainly maybe is a little overlooked because they don't have the problems. Problems what causes attention and gets folks with journalism degrees interested. Hell, how can you write about sweetness and light? There's nothing to say, right? They treat you guys. That's how they get you guys going. Sharpen your teeth. You gotta, if you can't get something going, hell, start a fight, just so you got something to write about, right?
Right. What's the most important thing you want people to remember about you?
Oh, I don't worry about me. I don't worry about that. You just live life the best you can do it, and the good Lord takes care of the rest of it. I don't worry about that. I love people. Always have. I don't. So if you're doing something and you think you're improving or helping improve or helping somebody along, again, Mrs. Wells, you had no to complain about smoke in your husband's businesses. That kind of thing that's in the past, and it should stay there. The discriminations that we've had, those are the things we're least proud of. The racial discriminations and the other discriminations that we've levied against folks. That's thank God we've cleared an awful lot of that out. Yeah, there's still pockets of it. I would be, you'd be lying and crazy if you thought it was all gone. It's not. But we've come a hell of a long ways. We'd have a black president. Most certainly, no. I was ready for that. That's those things. In a democracy now, this next thing is the immigration. We've got to get reasonable. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but we've got to have a better answer to the immigration quandaries that we're in today. Those kinds of things. I think it's people things. We can talk about the majestic buildings and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's people. Hell, you can't get away from that. And I think some people try to do it by doing all this grandiose. They try to overcome the dissatisfaction and run over that, not listen to it. We're a lot better than we used to be, I think, at listening and reacting. Some of the programs, I got interested recently in this stoplight thing, where you get an automatic ticket. I think people kind of let folks know how they felt about that. Okay, so you try it. So it doesn't work, get it out, change. I serve on an airport board where we're changing those. I see people come in. This is a classic. For your journalistic interests. This lady, like I'm going to say, 300 times in 1 month, called about the noise. Called the airport, complained about noise. We have a recording device and people answer also. And there aren't that many airplanes, but it was, so she said, well, I'm going to move. She finally called and said, I'm moving, and it's all your guys' fault, your damned airport, your noisy airport, Centennial Airport. And, oh, well, okay. You know anything about airplanes?
Not really.
Well, an airplane, if that's the runway, out here, probably 8 miles away or 6 miles away, they start to have electronics that gives you glide path, approach, okay? So it's basically in bad weather, every airplane has to fly across this business, all right? Where do you think she bought a house?
8 miles away.
Right under one of these towers, right next to it, 500 feet away. But she didn't want any advice. She didn't, huh? Now she's got all the traffic. She really does have traffic. Every once in a while, one of those kinds of things happen, and you just say, but for the grace of God, there go I.
So
it's a good life, you don't weaken.
So for future generations, for your great, 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 great grandchildren who might go to the library and listen to this this interview, this oral history, what advice would you have for future generations?
If you don't have anything better to do than listen to this, you're in trouble. If you're still digging back that far, you really got a problem. No, I think I'm an optimist. I think we're getting better at everything we do. That's the main we. We are getting better, and yeah, we've still got. You guys don't have anything to write about if we didn't have the deviations once in a while, but I think we've improved a heck of a lot in many of our areas: public safety, water, sewer, traffic controls. Not that we're getting perfect, but we're a lot better than we were. I was looking the other day and at some notes I had on sewage treatment back when I was in grad school. And in those days, if a stream, as I recall, if it flowed 7 miles, it would cleanse itself. In other words, no matter what you dropped in it, because the air and the motion of the water and the oxygenation, et cetera, et cetera. That was kind of a rule. Don't put in the streams. Well, we've changed an awful lot of those kinds of things that we were learning as we grew up. Today, water treatment, you name, dang near everything that a city deals with. There's been tremendous improvements in the science and the application and delivery. We still are working on that one problem, and that's if you're going to be a jackass. We got an awful hard time with a city public employee. How do we make sure that doesn't get involved? Now I'm it's a little serious, but we still have that human relations problem, and I think it's a whole lot better, but making it people understand that they're here to serve, and they're not here to be a servant, not here to be run over and treaded on by the public, but it is the public they're working for, and I think we've overcome so much of those kinds of complaints. My experience anyway with local government today, we've made tremendous strides in improvement, and most certainly I know Lakewood has, because I still know some builders and people out here that they're dealing with the city, and that's the kind of improvements I look for. Is what do you got done, and how much less noise and rumble and upset and excitement and opposition. Was it thought through before the changes were made? Was the adjustments made on it, the program, after you found that? I think there's a lot more time goes into that, and that's what I'm watching, the programs that come on today. There's a lot more time goes into initiation, thinking about how are people going to react? What are we doing for people? Are we really doing something, or are we just creating another level of discontent, another irritation? I look at some of the big problems we got today. For instance, the immigration thing. I don't think any of us are going to escape the impacts that we're getting out of the immigration business. And I don't have the answer, but it certainly isn't working today what we're doing, and that's going to affect all of us, even not just the border states. That's society in general.
Well, we thank you very much, Mr. Wells, for taking part in this history project.
Yeah, and I hope you ran out of tape. It was fun talking with you.